Hey, wake up and be amazing. I'm Trainer Dane, partner trainer with Camp Gladiator, trainer, believer, and welcome to episode 1 of Real People, Real Life, Real Stories. So I was sitting at an event in December, end of the year event for Camp Gladiator. I was like, we listen to all these podcasts of people with thousands and tens of thousands of followers, sellers of books, they're bestsellers. I'm like, but what about real people, your neighbor? What about their stories? Everyone has a story. I reached out to numerous people. I've got a long list in my phone. I can use iPhone notes. I tried to do it last week. It didn't quite work out. But we are here with my friend, Evelina Solis. I'm going to bring her on the screen in just a moment. But if you're waiting now, I'm going to hit right here. Please hit hashtag live. If you're watching live, please hit hashtag replay if you are doing replay. So that we can comment or hear what you have to say. So let me see if I can get her on the screen with the round of applause here. Life coach. Let's see. What else do you have? Hello, Evelina. Good afternoon.
You know what's crazy? When you were doing your intro, it sounded like you were a robot, but now you sound normal. So that's good.
So it's funny. It's so funny. So in some of the extra training you get when you talk, it's like some of the stuff I do is so rote, but it needs to be very natural because that's just who we are. That's why I want to do real stories, right? It's not a robot. It's not a bot. It's not automated. I'm sitting in my home in New Braunfels, Texas, and Evelina is sitting in her home across town somewhere, correct?
Yes. And I don't usually use a desktop. So we're kind of like in a transition right now. And I'm getting on like 5 minutes before Trainer Dane actually needs to go live. So it was very real life. I'm just like, I don't know if the computer's on. I don't know if it's working. I don't use the desktop that often.
And even before we started, she's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. So if we can't hear, hit something. Hit a sad face or whatever. So Evelina and I met probably about a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, as she came to a Camp Gladiator camp. And just after camp, she introduced herself, and I bet we stayed after camp for an hour, right? At least.
Yes, at least. Because we can talk for a long time. Anyway, always.
Always. Well, that's the beauty of both of us being motivational speakers is we have a lot of stuff to say. But we built a relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, a camper trainer relationship. I was honored late last year when Evelina invited me to one of her speaking engagements, and that was awesome to be in.
Thank you for coming. That meant so much to me, going that extra mile.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So can you tell me, I'm going to put up a little thing about you that I took off of your Facebook page, see if you can read this. And it says, it's coming up, founder of Soul to Soul, certified life coach and inspirational speaker. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would love to. I really feel like my career chose me and I didn't choose it. I started off working in radio and television. So I was a broadcast journalist. I went to school for broadcast journalism and electronic media and Spanish. So I majored in both. All my life growing up, I wanted to be the Latina Oprah.
There you go.
I wanted to be, I wanted to have the world as my classroom, and I wanted to be able to serve others and, have an outlet. And just the, media is so powerful and what it can do for people. And so I wanted to be able to have a talk show or something someday. But you have to obviously start in news, which isn't too fun for a lot of people. So it was really hard, like learning just the ins and outs of what leads bleeds and all that good stuff in television and radio. So at my university, I just got super involved in all of that, learned how to write, edit, produce, direct, learned the whole behind the scenes and being in front of the camera. I was one of the youngest co-anchors for a show we had there at Ohio Northern Universities where I went to school. And I just thought, this is what I want to do. And I know people probably made fun of me and laughed at me when I was younger, but I used to get underneath like the kitchen table and like always be on my, microphone, so the cassette tape player and record myself. You could always find me doing that or trying to do lip syncing with Star Search.
Nice.
I knew I was going to do something entertainment, but I just didn't know, how God would use it to like help other people. So I went to school and I did that. and I received this real prestigious fellowship to go to New York City with the International Radio and Television Society Foundation Fellowship. That's a mouthful. Only 32 people in the world actually got accepted for that fellowship that year. So I met students from all over the world who also had dreams and passions of pursuing something in the broadcast journalism field. And we got to meet everyone in the top industry. You know, it's the #1 market for TV. We were connected to just amazing individuals, people that helped to find Oprah. So there was my connection.
Right.
The person that helped to find her, like he was there. And, you know, just people that were like influential in her life. We got to meet Barbara Walters. We were on a few different shows when it was Regis and Kelly, you know, before it switched over, a lot of those daytime talk shows. And got to just see a lot of that, you know, the 60 Minutes, 2020. It was really neat. It was a super awesome experience. And just getting a taste of that, because I grew up in a very small community with 6,000 people. It had some really great people, but there wasn't a lot of like resources for us to be able to access. It was 2 hours south of Chicago. I lived in a small town called Hoopeston, Illinois. It is the home of the corn jerkers. We're the corn capital of the world. I don't think we are now, but that kind of was our claim to fame. But you know, being close to Chicago and seeing like everything that had to offer just gave me a lot of hopes and dreams. And I had relatives who lived in Chicago and we'd get to go there often. So I just set my dreams and goals for higher. You know, I just wanted to do something to impact the world, to make a difference, just like you.
Right. Thank you.
And so I left to this fellowship. I worked in TV and radio for a while. And then that summer was September 11th. I was in New York City. I lived on Water Street, like 9 or 10 blocks from the World Trade Center, right there. I actually flew out on September 9th to the Grammys in Los Angeles. And I was covering the 2001 Latin Grammys. And this was my moment. Like I was doing red carpets. You know, at the time I was doing like movie premieres, CD release parties. And just, you know, being 21 years old at the time, and everything I watched in TV and everything I would dream about was like actually happening in front of me. And I just was so blown away. You know, I'm a first generation college student. So just the opportunity of like wanting to have a better life for future generations and wanting to do more for the family. So it was just like surreal, you know, surreal. And it's funny because everyone who was laughing at me growing up, you know, people that thought it was funny that I would be the Latina Oprah, I was like, look, I'm interviewing. Look
at me now.
Here. Yeah, Jennifer Lopez is in this seat. And when she was dating P. Diddy, you know, Puff Daddy or whatever. So it was like their seats are right there. And I was watching like these dress rehearsals for Shakira, and it was like Luis Miguel, like all the big names, you know, even the crossover people were there. And so I was just so starstruck, but I tried to play it so cool. I got this, you know. But that morning of September 11th was the day that the Latin Grammys were going to air. And it didn't happen.
Didn't air.
So it was kind of like a real metaphor for my life, just how if you build your foundation on shifting sand and not on solid rock, like it can all come crumbling down. I was chasing goals just for myself and not really like praying about it or, you know, asking God if that's what he wanted me to use my gifts and talents for. And I literally was that close. Like I was right there. And I had already done a lot of, like I said, like the MTV Video Music Awards and like these red carpets and movie premieres and all of that. But this was kind of like the big pivotal, like I watched the Grammys growing up and being there. And so it was just like, all right, God, what are you trying to tell me? Because, you know, a lot of times we can feel defeated and think, you know, oh man, you know, I have bad luck or whatever. But really, God's trying to teach us something. So what's my lesson in all of this? What do I need to know? What am I not hearing or listening to? You know, let me know, you know. So I just prayed about it and I ended up having to come back to the Midwest. My parents were living in Ohio at the time. I spent some of my teenage years in Defiance, Ohio. My dad had gotten transferred. He worked for General Motors foundry there. And so we got transferred right in the middle of my sophomore year, or maybe the middle of my freshman year. But, you know, going through school and being with the same kids all growing up, and, you know, you're military, so you get up, you know, and have to move and leave. And so my dad got transferred out, and it was just so hard to have to start all over. It was a bigger school, But I met some amazing people like on that journey, and my parents ended up staying there for a while in Defiance, Ohio. So I ended up back there and had to regroup. A lot of people would not hire me. I tried to interview and apply for jobs locally, like in Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, all because I had already worked at the #1 market for broadcast television. So a lot of people thought, well, when the economy gets better, you're going to get up and leave. Like, you've already been there. And I never thought about that. I was just like, well, you know, this is what I got to do now. You know, I'm trying to figure out, obviously the whole experience of September 11th was very, you know, horrifying. And a lot of the firefighters and police officers we pass every day, you know, we're no longer there. You know, the Twin Towers just crumbling down, and, you know, having experienced all of that at such a young age and thinking you're at the top of the world and then it just come crumbling down. It was a pivotal moment. It definitely changed the trajectory of my life and like what I was going to plan to do and how I was going to do it. And so while I was waiting to figure out what the next step would be, because I was regrouping and just praying and asking, like, what do you want me to do, God? What do I need to be doing? I kept getting phone calls from some mentors of my alma mater at Ohio Northern University. And they were just saying, we think it would be great because one of my mentors, who I just admire and respected so much, Sherman Dean, he was getting ready to leave, and he was like a multicultural recruiter at our university. So the school would pay for him to go recruit students, you know, in different regions of the country. And it would give me opportunity to still be in front of parents, to talk about the university and my experience and what I got to do. You know, it was a very unique program, and the way that the professors at the university helped to mold me to be able to get that opportunity. So it was like I could come back and give back to them. And I kept saying no. I was like, I am done with Ohio Northern University. I am on to bigger things. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, God humbled me because every other door would close. Like, I was trying for TV things, I tried for radio things, and it just kept closing and closing. And I was just so defeated because I was like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something in the media world. So I was just like, I don't understand. So I get back to the university. I end up doing some interviews. You know, it was a great place to learn more about myself because I had graduated college in 3 years with double majors, and I had studied abroad. So I was like type A, you know, have to get on my to-do list and, you know, trying to be that overachiever. And I just really had to be still. God was just like, be still, watch what I'm going to do, you know? And I was just like, okay. So at the university, I got to travel more than I ever had. I experienced places I had never been to because I'm bilingual. They sent me to places like Puerto Rico, which I'm so sad. Like, I heard they had a hurricane or earthquake just in the last 2 days. I think a hurricane, then an earthquake. So I'm praying for all the people in Puerto Rico. But I've got to go to the island like at least 3 or 4 times and experience that culture and that world. And then that eventually led me to a job in higher education as a higher education professional and at the University of Miami in Coral Gables, Florida.
Okay.
So I became an assistant director of multicultural affairs there in Miami, Florida.
From the time you were at the Latin, let me interrupt real quick. From the time you were at the Latin Grammys to now in University of Miami and Coral Gables, how long is this?
Let's see. So I was at the Latin Grammys in 2001. I worked at Ohio Northern University. In between, I worked at an advertising marketing agency for like a year, but I worked at Ohio Northern University in 2002, and then to 2004. And then I made it out to Miami in 2004. So I was there from 2004 to 2006.
I'll let you get back to Coral Gables. Yeah. So all of this time, though, your dream at this point is really to try to get back in radio and television and film, yes?
Yes. But while I'm there, I'm pouring into students. I'm raising up the next generation. And I forgot how much I love teaching, too.
Right.
I love education. I love what it did for me. And I love that I could be that for someone else. All these mentors who have poured into me, I was that person for other people. My main job at the University of Miami and Coral Gables was planning multicultural events. So I learned all about the different cultures that make up Miami. It's pretty much Latin America in the States. Right. And, you know, and then just like I planned Asian History Month, African American Month, of course, Hispanic Heritage Month, just different things. And so getting to be with so many people from so many different cultures and understanding, it just gave me a whole new perspective on life and how to deal with people, whether I'm interviewing them or in front of them, but just how to approach and like some of the struggles that everyone goes through, like is all the same. So in the end, we're more the same than different.
Absolutely.
And so I loved seeing that in my experience. And I fell in love with higher education. I ended up teaching leadership courses after University of Miami at the University of Texas in Austin. And I became a Leadership and Ethics Institute advisor. I actually helped to build up the Leadership Institute that they have there. I think it's like a leadership network now. But I did all the research and compared it to all the universities around the country to build up this leadership library. And now they have like a leadership like minor or major.
Oh, wow.
And I got to just really be a part of like molding all of that. So that's like the legacy I leave there. I'm like, how am I going to do this TV and radio? How am I going to do this? And on the side, I would do like freelance reporting. So like in Miami, I would still be doing like the presidential debates. I would do the MTV Video Music Awards. So I was burning the candle on both ends.
Absolutely.
In Miami. I was working during the day at the university, and at night I was a reporter. At night I was covering stories, but it was like I never really truly got rest because I thought I was young and invincible. And then life started taking a crazy turn. It really did. While I was in Miami, I was at an event actually awarding students. It was the end of the year banquet or something. And I was coming up the stairs to our office and I felt like I was having a heart attack. Wow. And my director, who unfortunately and so sadly like passed away not that long ago, but he would always tease me. And he said to me, man, for someone training for like a marathon, because I was still working out, running, he said, you're out of shape. And I went up those stairs and I was huffing and puffing and something just wasn't right. A few days earlier, I had like a huge bruise on my left calf and it was just getting bigger. Like it started off as like maybe the size of a dime and then it was like already a quarter. And there was like a lot of sharp pains going through my leg. And I was just like, and then the whole breathing, like it was off and I was getting dizzy, lightheaded. I'm like, something is not right. And I'd already went to the doctor days before and they're like, oh, you're fine. You're in great shape and health. You know, they check all your cardio and like just your heart health. And they're like, oh yeah, you look amazing. Well, I had a DVT that became a pulmonary embolism. Pulmonary embolisms, like 650,000 people, like, you know, have one and a majority of them die within 30 to 60 minutes of having one. So I knew at that point, I said, God spared my life. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What can we do this? You know, you have taken me from TV and radio into higher education. What do you want me doing now? Like,
did you stay devout in your faith the entire, I mean, from knowing you, it's important to you today. I didn't know you over, I was going to say 10 years ago. It's more like 20 years ago now. So did you discover your faith in before DVT and then, you know, other things that we're going to talk about?
You know, I grew up Catholic. A devout Catholic. My, you know, family Roman Catholic. Like I, you know, in the Latino culture, like Catholicism, like it's, we breathe, eat, and live it. When I went through high school, like I said, I was in Ohio for some time. I came across some amazing individuals who just would take me to church with them and just explore Christianity and what it was about. And I just like I yearned for more. Like I wanted to know more. And I, you know, I'm a nerd by heart. So I love to learn things and learn about people and their experiences. And that's why I feel like I'm a voice for the voiceless. I love telling stories. But during that time with my friends, I was like, oh, you know, what's this about? And then, you know, some churches, and, you know, that might be churches that these people like that are watching, and that's great. But, you know, they're just completely different from what I knew. And so that was the first time I kind of like started like there's something more, something different. I wanted more of a deeper connection to really understand not religion, but a relationship with Jesus Christ, because there's a difference. I didn't want religion. I wanted a relationship. And so in college, I went to Ohio Northern University, but it's a Methodist-based school. And all of the services there are non-denominational for Wednesday chapel. So it's a private school and we would have chapel. So I kind of just, well, what's this about? And like trying to dig and learn more. And while I was in school there, being surrounded by friends from lots of different backgrounds, I was a part of a gospel ensemble choir.
Yep.
And we would travel to different churches and sing. And so that is when I feel like I truly, really handed over my life to Christ. And I was just like, all right, what do I need to be doing? Where are we going with this? And just really accepting him like into my life. So
Sure.
At that point, probably in my late teens, early 20s is really when I was like, okay. But as I moved to New York City, he was not a priority.
Right.
My career and trying to be the best that I could be there, not balancing any of it. That's, where I learned a really hard lesson. And so in Miami, I started getting back to like, okay, I need to read the word. I need to hear what he's saying because, man can't live on bread alone.
Right.
So you need to like know the word. So I was like, okay. So that's kind of, I think in my mid-20s really too, is when I really came back to it. I was like, okay, God's trying to do something and he spared my life, especially after the DVTPE.
Sure. I ask that because I don't know who's watching necessarily. And I know that's a very, very important part of who you are today. And I just was trying to figure out and share, not all of us are born and then all of a sudden we feel like God has spoken to us and we're going to follow the word or whatever it is. And then we discover it. So I was just
used to that routine, stand up, sit down, pray, stand up, sit down, pray. But I didn't really, it didn't have a personal meaning to me. There was no real relationship. I always had a lot of religion. And I think a lot of us do. But to me, church isn't a building. It's, being in community with people and learning that and what that really means. And I think the people in college had this great gospel ensemble director named Adrian Bradshaw, and then another mentor of mine, Leon Williams, like them and their families, and then the wives of, Sherman and Leon. They really taught me a lot because they grew up in the church. And I just saw that in a whole different perspective. Like I no longer wanted like a to-do list of marking off like my devotional and my Bible scripture. It was more like I really wanted to enjoy God and want to be in relationship with him, not like all this religion stuff that people pound over people's heads.
Sure.
So that's kind of what happened. But near life death experience will change your perspective on all of that.
I can talk to that firsthand too. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Change your perspective on the world. And one of my Danish sayings is it never wastes a heartbeat. When you've been close to where it might have been, where it's been your last one, your perspective on life completely changes. Hey,
I always say,
go ahead.
I always say that if you feel your heart beating, like, if you put your hand over your heart, like do this at presentations, I was like, you still have a purpose. You matter.
Absolutely.
So it's like, don't waste the heartbeat. So I love that.
Exactly. That's probably, I'm sure that's one of the reasons we clicked and connected.
Yeah.
So before we got on, and I know now as we talked from being years from Miami to now you're at University of Texas in the story, but I know that time is of an essence for you today. Is that correct?
we got about 15 more minutes. So
okay, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just sitting at home in my office, hanging out. So let's go back to your story.
12:45 people. If you want to stick with us, we got till 12:45.
We'd love to look hit some hearts and hit some likes as Evelina is going to share her story. If you're here live, hit #live. If you're coming back, please watch #replay. If you have any questions, comments about who we are, what we're doing. But again, what we're doing, this is episode 1 in 2020. One of my goals is to do 52 live videos with other human beings, interviews, because I want real people, real stories, real lives that are at the grocery store with you, at your church, in the food line, serving others. I know you did a video today on serving others. And and it's funny because the leadership book I just finished is about servant leadership. But anyway, you have a better connection, a better opportunity of running into us and having a conversation and sitting down and having a glass of tea or coffee than you do probably have Tony Robbins. And if you can talk to Tony Robbins, more power to you. But just let you know, we are in your neighborhood, raising our kids and our family, walking our dogs in your neighborhood. So let's jump back. And now you're at the University of Texas.
Yes. So the DVT-PE has happened. I actually did an interview from the hospital, because that really, I mean, it just, my whole body, you know, it just wrecked my whole body. The DVTP, if you've never experienced one, I hope you never do. It is so painful. I literally thought I was going to die. So the next thing is I wake up, just going back to Miami, like I wake up in my hospital bed, and my brother, who had just came to visit me days earlier, was there again, and he lives in Ohio. So I knew something was really wrong. My parents got that phone call that they didn't know that I was going to make, if I was going to make it through the night, because pulmonary embolisms kill people in 30 to 60 minutes. So waking up from that, I came home, hooked up to an oxygen tank in a wheelchair, because I couldn't just get up. I needed the blood clot to dissolve, because if those blood clots break off, you know, they can go into your brain, cause an aneurysm, and people fall flat out. And I learned later on from the nurses after we left, because they weren't going to tell me while I was there, but a guy just like the day before had stood up and said, "I'm ready to go home." And the minute he hit his foot on the ground, he died.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, you know, you're in your mid-20s, you think you're invincible,
Right,
you're
absolutely.
conquering the world, you've hit all these goals really early in life, and then it's like, boom, you know, what's my future going to look like? I'm not married, I don't have kids, I don't even understand what's going on, you know, I'm just like, thankfully I come from such a loving, supportive family, and they've always just been there to encourage and support. But my parents rushed to Miami from Texas, because they lived in Texas. They had retired and moved to the New Braunfels area. They rushed over there. My brother from Ohio rushed over there. Just everybody who could come. I had an uncle that just moved to the Tampa area. Him and his daughters and his wife that came at the time. I mean, just full of love and support. And that's really all the prayers helped to get me back on my feet. Right. But I did this interview in the hospital bed for the University of Texas at Austin, and they did not know. They had to take me off the oxygen tank to be able to finish it. And I was like so out of breath, but I knew I needed health benefits. I knew I needed like a stable job. I couldn't do contracted jobs as much. Right. And I knew I needed to like have some security. So I interviewed for one particular position at UT, and that one didn't work out, but sure enough, something did open up. And it was in student activities in the leadership department. Right. And that just like opened a whole new door for me, because at the University of Texas at Austin, I put on these leadership workshops. So I was teaching kids everything they needed to know outside of the classroom, time management, right. You know, things that they should be having classes on, because your history and your, you know, super high math, like, isn't what's going to get you far in life. It's like the real life skills. So I was putting together these workshops and getting to present them. And then I was presenting regionally, and then I was presenting nationally. And I said, there's something to this, because we bring in all these speakers to student activities and leadership development. And I was just like, how do I do that? And I remember like being in college at 18, and there was this great speaker named Dave Coleman, and he would come every year to speak. And I'm like, how do you do what you do? Like, how do you make this like a career, you know,
right? Yeah.
Inspirational speaker. I mean, how do people do that? And he would just, you know, he gave me different tips of advice. And I remember him saying, you know, a lot of it is living life, like going through these tough struggles and experiences. And I'm like, how do you turn your mess into a message? Like, how do you make that happen? You know?
Well, and when you do that, people listen, right? Because they see themselves in your story.
Yeah.
So I have conversations about all the time. It's so as a personal trainer, yes. Right, and life coach and motivational speaker, it's hard for me to show that there are really kinks in my armor, because you're supposed to be the one that's strong and shows up. And
yes.
Yeah. But how I got to where I am emotionally today, some of it was very unpleasant.
Yeah.
You know, and those kind of things. And that's what I've been trying to open up more, to share the story that got me to where I'm in front of however many people every day. Plus, this is our stage now, you know, on a different stage opportunity today than you were in 2001 when you were at the Latin Grammys. We can sit in our house and present that story. So,
and I love that. I love how far technology has brought us, and the fact that if I'm not feeling too well, or, you know, I want to wear pajama bottoms from the waist down or whatever, you know, that I can do that with technology. There's a lot of things that I'm grateful for that technology has brought to us, but I also do not like how it keeps people disconnected and not in person, even though we got to see each other earlier.
No, we did get to see each other today, but she's absolutely right. So there's still no substitute for sitting face to face and having a conversation. But we do the best we can. We can. So,
and I love this StreamYard. I am going to use it because it's amazing what you can do. Powered by StreamYard.
Yeah. Well, and if I was, and I'm about to upgrade. So okay, let's do a commercial for StreamYard. Are you ready?
That's for another episode.
Yeah, for another episode. Okay. Anyway, go back to your story.
So at the University of at the University of Texas, what I learned was that I could take my education and my entertainment and combine them. And after talking to various motivational speakers, turning that mess into a message, I said, okay, I have presented nationally, locally, I have reported. How can, I turn this passion into a profit? And just from getting a lot of advice and putting myself out there and doing a lot of stuff free at first, a lot of workshops to get my name out there, things just started picking up. A lot of times, I'm not out there like digging for speaking engagements. People have either seen me present or heard my story, and they actually just invite me to come. And I just love that because God is so faithful. I mean, I haven't even talked about what happened at the end of University of Texas at Austin and well, I guess one of the things I wanted to say too is when the motivational speaker had told me, you need to, live life and experience things. I just didn't know God would have me experience that so early on. I experienced a lot of life before 30.
Wow.
And, just whether it was traveling, across the world or, interviewing people, or doing this like multicultural recruiting or teaching leadership workshops or courses. I didn't realize how he was going to just put that all together. But like they say, he's working out this masterpiece, but you're only seeing these pieces. And when things are really hard, like your struggle is really hard and you're going through these valleys, you feel like, do you still see me? Or are you still like, do I feel like this?
I am.
Yeah. Do I matter? Like, and of course we do. I mean, we would not be relying upon the Lord if everything was easy all the time.
Right, absolutely.
Ever since Adam and Eve came and sin came into the world, there's going to be bad things that happen. It's just the way it goes. But it's how you react to them. You talk about perspective all the time.
Right.
You're talking about your mindset, right?
That's my word of the year. That is 100% my word of the year is mindset. So I didn't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. I got to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I didn't have to go exercise today. I'm blessed that my body will allow me to move, and I got to go move today, right? I got to... Yeah. I got to go to work to pay the bills because I'm blessed to have a house and thankfully I don't live on the street. I got to do all those things.
Exactly.
So there are blessings everywhere.
Yep. Like you don't have to, but you get to. And that's the beautiful part of it, But yeah, I think about just, throughout the journey. So at the University of Texas at Austin, it was toward the end, I started feeling really sick, like in 2008, going into 2009. I was getting like a breast biopsy done. A bone marrow biopsy. At one point, they thought I had MS. At another point, they thought I had cancer. Just all these weird things were happening after the DVT-PE. And I'm like, but I'm a healthy person. Like I eat better than my friends. I was working out more than some of my friends. Like, I felt like I was on a good regimen, but obviously something still wasn't right in my body. And after doing a bunch of testing and, I was presenting in front of a couple hundred teachers at St. Edward's University in South Austin. I went to go plug up my USB, and this was a presentation my parents actually got to come to watch because they wanted to know, how is this UT, University of Texas at Austin career, like, how's this transition going to happen? Like, just what is it that you do? What are you talking about?
Right.
There's a speaking thing. And so I was there presenting in front of these teachers that were here from Spain. They were our guests, and it was this program, some kind of leadership program there, and I was teaching them about the 3 different kinds of Latino students like in Texas. So I was doing this, what I thought was going to be a great presentation, and I plug up my USB and I have a seizure.
In front of the whole audience.
Yes, evacuates. People are screaming, yelling. My dad is trying to run up to catch me. My sandals went flying off of my feet. I bit down because, I like accessories and bit down my necklace. I broke my front left tooth. I fell face forward. I mean, people are here visiting. Hi, welcome. As your
And then
person like
freaking out.
about to die. Freak accident, you know? And it's funny because years later, I found out like a good friend of mine actually was in that building, and he didn't know it was me, and he didn't know it was that incident. And it was like I was speaking at another event. He was like, I was in that building when it got evacuated.
Oh my God.
So all of the EMS comes in, you know, they're trying to save my life. Nobody knows why, but I start seizuring, but like for long periods of time, not like in and out, like seizing. So I get rushed to St. David South. I get there, I end up flatlining, and then I wake up.
Never waste a heartbeat.
And then I seize again, and I flatline again. And then there was another long seizure that had happened. And at this point, they don't know the brain activity. They don't know if my heart's working, like anything, like coming back to, they thought probably like in a vegetable state.
Right.
And so I woke up to find out that I had systemic lupus and that I would have to go through 6 months of chemotherapy because the lupus was so like aggressive that they would have to do this kind of treatment, and that I reverted back to a 6-month-old.
Oh my Lord.
So at this point, my parents don't know what my future is going to look like, and they're probably going to be taking care of their older child. When you think you're going to grow up, you're going to help take care of your parents. But all of a sudden, they're now taking care of me again in my late 20s. And that was just wild, you know, having to learn how to talk, walk, and eat again, trying to get back.
Physical therapy, occupational therapy.
Yes. Physical, occupational, speech therapy. And I remember it being a goal for me to do a presentation. They had asked me, all of the therapists, if I'd put on a presentation at the end when I graduated. And what took me 6 months, I did in 4. And I got to present to all of my therapists.
Of course you did.
Because God was lining it up. Like, who would ever know he was going to bring me out of that? And there's already going to be this platform. And, you know, that he was going to get all the honor and all the glory, because before I was taking credit. So it was really neat just how that all happened. And the fact that I'm here talking to you all, it took a lot of rehabilitation.
I have no doubt. I mean,
you kind of hear a little bit of my story, one part of it, when you came to my work.
No, every time I'm blessed to speak with you, I hear something more about your story, and that's what you tell me about me when I share stuff. It's like, I didn't know that about you. I didn't, you know. So, well, I'm grateful to know you and have God have blessed you into my life and to share with others. It's an amazing story that is not even close to being written. The first chapters are written, but the future chapters. So with literally a second chance in life, multiple times, do you have a vision for your future?
You know, I feel God shows me so many different things, and I know I'm going to end up doing some speaking tours. Like, you know, just the timing of it, obviously raising a child and how that all works in the mix without missing out on her life, you know, because that's the most important. My most important mission right now is being a mom, and then it's speaking and, you know, still changing lives and impacting them, and just really being a light, because a lot of times we're going to be the only Bible people read. So I feel just even in everyday contact, one-on-one conversations, you know, my other mission obviously is to make the disciples out of, you know, people so that they will follow Jesus. And so it's important for me to share my faith and everything that he's done, because miracles are happening every single day. And a lot of people aren't witnessing them, or maybe they're so stuck in their struggle that they cannot see them. And so I just want to be able to bring light to that. But I feel that God is showing me a lot of different things. I feel at some point, because this is a 10-year anniversary of this happening, you know, a movie, a book, you know, something, it just depends. Like I've met a lot of people recently who have been very intrigued by it, and just being able to tell it on larger platforms, maybe internationally. But it just, I mean,
but a door will open and you'll have to walk through. Can I ask you to share a little part of your story about the 10-year anniversary and how what you got to do at the 10-year at the 10-year anniversary? Can you share that real quick?
Thank you for bringing that up. I would love to talk about that. As we have been talking, we just never know. When we look back at 2009, you know, I did not know if I would ever really be able to speak or communicate in the way that God had intended. But I do remember telling him in the few words that I had, and in my quiet voice, just saying that if he did choose to keep me around, that he would have to make a way so that I'd be able to tell his story through me. And I said, you know, I don't know how I'm gonna get up out of this bed. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to walk again. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to talk. But if this is what you want for me in my life, I don't see myself doing anything else. Because the doctors had asked my parents to keep me, like, you know, occupied and busy, you know, with different kinds of things, to, like, whether it was painting or just easy things I could do, because I needed something to look forward to. I needed hope.
Right.
Which brings me to, like, why my daughter's name is Hope. I needed something to hold on to. And, you know, my faith obviously was really strong at the time, and we had so many people praying, but I had to wake up every day motivated by something. And I just told the Lord, I said, I know this is what you made me for. I know that I'm supposed to be telling stories. Like I say it often, you know, I'm supposed to be a voice for the voiceless. I'm supposed to be advocating on behalf of people. I am supposed to be sharing stories as well as interviewing. It's really weird being on this end of the interview because I've always been the one who interviews. So thank you, Trainer Dane. It's an honor to be here with you. But, you know, I ask him all the time. I'm just like, this is why, you know, in the 10 years that this happened to me, because 10 years later, you would bring me to St. Edward's University again. There was all these speakers they were looking at. Texas Monthly Magazine and St. Edward's University, the wellness department, came together. They had brought names. One of my great friends named Kyle Clark, he worked with me at the University of Texas at Austin, and he was working at St. Edward's University this past fall. And he threw my name in the bag, not knowing, because they don't know me. He's worked side by side with me. He's seen my story. He's been in the hospital. Him and his wife has visited me. They watched stuff online, you know, through Facebook, and just kept in touch and watching it. So he was able to talk from a personal experience of wanting to bring me in. And so I got this opportunity, which blew my mind. I was the speaker or the keynote for the freshman orientation at St. Edward's University. It was like a building over from where this incident happened 10 years ago. Now that is amazing. Like, there's no way to align that, to say, you know, he's still on the throne, he's still in control, and he has this like master plan, and I could never have seen it. I was just like, can I just breathe? Can I just live? Like, can I just make my next step? Can I, you know, have a purpose, like something, you know? I was just, but and it's so cool. And I got to do that presentation. It was called Optimism Plus Resilience: How to Turn a Scary Mess into a Powerful Message.
Amen.
That was my keynote.
That was awesome. No, I love that. And I knew when you got to go, and we talked about it afterwards. So that's something I definitely wanted to
go, but I was like, there was no outside. They only had it for the freshman orientation students and like the advisors and obviously the staff. That's all right.
I have easier access to if I need to talk. I got your digits, girl. I can call you. Man, so first of all, Evelina and I are talkers. We could go on for hours, but we've got to go. So, give me one last message of hope, or how people can get in touch with you to do all the magical things. I'm going to put up your titles right here. Alexa, be quiet. See, there you go. Keep it real. Keep it real. That's so funny.
Hey, that's we're here in a storage room right now because of my moving situation. But anyways, I want to tell people to live full and die empty. You know, life is so precious. It's what I've experienced and walked through. I don't want something horrible to happen for you guys to like realize that. Tell someone you love them, hug someone tighter, forgive and move on. The only person that it hurts if you don't forgive is yourself. You're the one that's hurt by that. So, you know, forgive and be set free. So kind of my message really is just really to live your life as full as possible. You know, love it, live it. My personal motto for my company, Soul to Soul, which is my certified life coaching and inspirational speaking, is seek your passion, feed your soul, and love your life. that is my motto there. So I leave you all with that, you know, be a light. Your life matters. You're still here, so you have purpose.
You have a story. So I just finished reading a book called Holding On to Hope, Rowan's story. And the author is a friend of mine telling a story about her son who lived for 10 years. And you talked about, and she signed it to me and it says, love your life. So it fits the message. And that was one of Rowan's pieces, to love your life. Thank you so much. Go out and change the world with your story, girl. I thank you so much. Have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you so much for all those people that joined today. I want to continue to share. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to give a little plug-in for Hope. My daughter's name is Hope Grace, and it had came to us like because I didn't know if I, you know, what life was going to look like after the lupus and the rehabilitation, but it was, you know, I felt God is like, you know, by the grace of God, like he's brought us hope. So that's kind of like how Hope got her name, and the fact that, you know, I was able to be married and have a child and then like a blended family. So God just had so much more in store than I could have ever even imagined. And that's what he has for you. And that's just what I wanted to say.
There's the message. Absolutely. Have a great day. Again, real people, real stories, real lives. If you have a story you'd like to share, please reach out to me. I'd love to get you on camera and share your story. I'm going to wave goodbye. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit end. Have a great day today. Hey, today, here's your challenge. Ready? I believe we can change the world with high fives, smiles, and handshakes. So go share those today. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Trainer Dane, for your time. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Evelina.
Impact in my life and just
you too.
last year. God bless.
Bye now.